Peace and love, strength and honor. Samir Saif, Ontario Top Team. Pow!
A very serious response. I think there's been some misunderstanding from my episode 15, and I'd just like to clarify it. Today's episode is the way you train is the way you fight, and the way you fight is the way you train. And I think there's been a misunderstanding from the commentary that I got. And let me say something about the comments. The comments were well written, and it was really intelligent dialogue. So I really appreciate that from Von Starr. And I think, let me just find it here. Cordis Paz. I mean, I'd like you guys, if you have a chance, to go to episode 15 and just read the comments. I think the comments are very polite. They're very articulated. No one is rude. They're just stating their side. And I think what's misunderstood is everyone thinks that what I'm saying is that combat is Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And that's not at all what I was saying. And then through the comments I saw, like, you won't be able to change your mindset. I mean, if you practice a certain way, no matter if you change your mindset, you fight the way you train. And I 100% agree. So I really my whole life, my whole legacy is based on the fact that I established in 1994 Samir's Combat Reaction. Now, back then, it was called Wing Chun Combat Reaction. So I had a lot of red herrings. It was called like Sifu's, I think Sifu Samir's Wing Chun Combat Reaction. And then I got rid of the Wing Chun because I was starting to learn more stuff and get accredited in different systems. And I evolved from just being, like a Japanese Jiu-Jitsu black belt with a Wing Chun black sash into so much more, into the person that you see today. But what's never changed is that everything I do is towards reality fighting, combat, used to defend your home, yourself, your family, your friends, your ability to use it in war. And I train that way. So what I did, and I'm going to explain some more stuff, but what I did, I wanted to cry. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is my whole life here on the line, in the sense of why I want people to subscribe to me, why I want people to watch my videos, is because I will teach you the most realistic, real-time stuff ever, because I am living it. I know some people, say that working in security isn't being in war in the military. What I can say is that I am used to conflict. I am used to conflict resolution, with physically and verbally. Like, I come into contact with people, 3-4 days a week in the capacity as a security manager or a close protection specialist, depending on what I'm doing. And when conflict occurs, I don't know whether I'll need to use lethal force. I mean, you can't say that I won't use lethal force. I mean, if loss of life or limb is imminent, then the law says I can protect myself with lethal force. Yes, I'll have to legally articulate it in court and defend myself, because it's never an easy thing to just simply take someone's life when you say, oh, I was defending myself. But the whole idea of the systems I teach, it's called Samir's Combat Reaction, not Samir's Sport Reaction. Now, I do a lot of sports stuff, and let me give you a little insight on that. When I was doing Wing Chun, my skills at the bar, I was working at local bars and stuff, was getting better and better at this kind of like conversation mode, where my hands were here and it'd be like pop, 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 and I could do stuff, just with my hands. But I noticed that when you sparred and when you started to grapple, my grappling skills, because I have a judo and jiu-jitsu background, would always be superior to a guy that was just doing, a straight Wing Chun, like if that's all he knew. So I knew there was missing parts, and I think once I got my black sash and I started to teach, I left my teacher early. He wanted me to stay and at least teach for him for a year. And I was immature at that time and young, and I probably, in retrospect, out of respect for him, should have stayed for the gift he gave me. Although I paid him, it's not about paying, it's about the gift. You have to understand that sometimes when someone's teaching you, of course, they got to feed themselves, but they're also going the extra distance sometimes when they teach you, and he did. And but I left early. I was young, and it took me about a decade to prove to him that I always held him dear in my heart, and the gift of Wing Chun he gave me has always been a gift and has remained with me. But I continued to become like a shoot wrestling champ and a wrestling coach. And I did Kyokushin. I got into Muay Thai, became a Muay Thai champion. I became a Muay Thai crew. I started evolving into the contact sports, but never in all of that did I leave behind the Wing Chun. And some of you don't know this, but I trained Kun Tao and Hapkido when I was young, from 11 to 18. Master Rob Dorian was carried what do you call it, like a satellite for the Kun Tao system under Brian Smith. We call him Buzz, Guru Buzz. So you can look that stuff up. So I've always been weapon savvy, and then of course running into Grandmaster Bram Frank and adopting the Combat Arnis and the whole system of Kali and Filipino martial arts, and just mental set of combat mind. So I would hope that no one, not even for a second, thinks that I'm not about reality fighting, street fighting, real life, from your lowest options to your most lethal options, with and without a weapon. I'm all about, multiple opponents, hostile terrain, just every conceivable, terrible situation you can think of. I go to the range. I'm up at Wentworth Shooting Club. I'd like to take some more gun courses. There's some really gifted people that I'd like to go work with. I want to go to the States more. I'd like to go train with Instructor Zero in Italy. There's all kind of things that I would like to do to continue my own training. Now, what I was trying to say is that in every art that I've done, when I did Wing Chun, it couldn't compete with the grappling and throwing. When I did Muay Thai, it couldn't compete with the grappling and the ground fighting. When I did the stick fighting, the Kali and Kun Tao, it couldn't deal with real pressure of grappling and shooting in. So most of the arts that I did, somewhere they were missing that boom, that pressure cooker of grappling and holding and hugging and pushing, and just that forward pressure. And if there was a shot going on, single leg, double leg, tackling, he just wasn't prepared for that. And although they had the kill shots, hit the back of the head, I'll chop you in the neck, it didn't work. I mean, I've had people try to smash me in the head and chop me in the neck. I've been gone at with weapons, and I'm alive today because I've dispelled the myth. So that's all I meant, was that I'm just so used to contact, and I think that all those arts, I'm not a beginner in that. I'm an expert. I'm an expert in those arts, and I know that the resistance, the progressive resistance, the sparring, the pressure, the wrestling, the ground fighting is needed in all the other arts, in the arts of Kali, in the arts of Kun Tao, in the arts of Wing Chun. Even when you do like Krav Maga or Sistema, you need to have a place where you can pressure cook it. And that's all I meant. I meant my mindset. Like, look at my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. It took me 14 years to get it. Why 14 years? Because I had such a hard time to get the street fight out of me, the combat side out of me, and I would go off on tangents, and I wouldn't do this move, and I wouldn't do that move, and then until when I got to my brown belt, I just made a decision. You know what? I got to be pure to the sport, pure to the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu way. And that's what I did. I immersed myself for the next 3 years, from the brown to the black. And just, you know what? I made sure I didn't wear my shoes. I didn't wear any fancy gis. I never wore anything but my brown belt. And I just did everything possible to understand the mindset so I could accomplish getting a Brazilian black belt. And I did. And it was really important to me. It was one of those things that I wanted to achieve legitimately. It was one of those skill sets that I want to say, when I'm showing you something in grappling, I'm showing you from the perspective of a professor, of a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And the same with Muay Thai. With Muay Thai, I immersed myself in the culture. and the understanding of the system so that I could become a crew, a teacher in Muay Thai, so I could become a champion, so I could go fight in Thailand, you know, so I could win a medal for Canada, represent us on the Canadian team. So everything that I put my mind to in the martial arts, you know, I immersed myself, but never, ever in any of those times did I ever stop training the street mentality, the combat mentality. You know, like I don't show you some of the videos because I don't really know where those videos would put me legally, to tell you the truth. I swear, I haven't figured it out yet. I don't know if it's a good idea or a bad idea, but I have some pretty, you know, badass material that I'd like to put out there, but I need to be responsible about that too. So let's just be clear one more time. What I was saying is you train the way you fight and you fight the way you train. What I meant with Muay Thai, boxing, wrestling, and jiu-jitsu is that these are good fundamental systems to have as your pressure cookers in addition to all the fight stuff, like to whatever system you do, whether it's Sistema, Krav Maga, Wing Chun, Kali, Kung Tao, Kempo, like whatever system that, you know, has kind of a Jeet Kune Do, has a street fighting mentality or able to enter into the arena of war. Those are really good pressure cookers to help you. Like you don't see the drills where I'm grappling and I have a knife or I have a pistol or the other guy has a pistol or a knife and I'm grappling and wrestling, but I'm used to that contact. You know, when you're doing all your little fancy gun disarms and stuff, I do those disarms under pressure cookers. You know, I'm getting really kicked and really kneed and we're really sparring, but we really have good equipment on. So I'm able to do that. You don't see all those videos. You know, YouTube is a way for you to know about me, for me to share. And then, I mean, the other parts are people come to me. That's how I make my living, between doing, you know, being a security manager in Toronto and doing seminars and little workshops. And I have a lot of like private clients that want to learn that next level stuff. And I have to keep true to them also. I can't put up all the stuff on the internet because that's, you know what, that's what they're paying me for. So I've got a surprise for you. What I did is last night I put street fighting Samir Saif and saw what came up. So you can see these are old videos. This is old material. I just didn't put it up, and it will show you, I think. Please be patient. Please watch all the video and you will never question. I do not believe you will ever question the mindset, the mentality that I come at. So no matter how much sports stuff I post for my other fans, you know, whether it's Muay Thai, wrestling, boxing, or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, at the deepest core of my soul, I am the combat man. I am a combatives man. I am about reality fighting. I'm about true combat, from the least amount of force to the most lethal amount of force. So please watch these next 13 minutes, and I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it gives you a better sense of what I meant when I said you train the way you fight and you fight the way you train. With the most respect, thanks again for those comments. Very intelligent, very well written, very respectful. Peace and love, strength and honor. For Subscribers Corner, episode 16. Pow!
Double slap, chop, turn. And that's my favorite finish. And remember, I get in trouble. Boom! I shoot from the holster because he can't press in on something that's coming on the side. Or his hands, just by the pressure that I put. When I hit, I just open up right away. Either get the butt, or there's 2 points right here where I hit, and I smash in here where I got the release, and then I was able to move the guy off. I got him in the clinch, I roll up, boom, and use my teaching talkie. I'm going to go on the bicep, I throw him to the side, boom. I'm going to try to clear it. Drive it. Biomechanically shut him down. I don't need to terminally kill him. So we're working on multiple opponents fighting. And the first stage is to learn not to duel individually, but to create a column and to get in behind, constantly moving around a group of people, treating it as an organism as opposed to an individual. So they'll work like this for 2 minutes. And really the strong focus is not to actually focus on one person, but to constantly put him in line with the other opponent to hit the vitals, eyes, throat, groin, back of the head. You see he's using him as a shield, using his entire body. And he'll run like this for 2 minutes.
Instead of pounding, if I'm in the street combat, I'm slapping, palming. I've got this S-mount, but I'm also gouging. I can scratch and gouge the eyes. You'd be surprised how fast that can end his sight, just scratching. And then of course, yes, I can end it with a full arm break where I start to feel the whole sense with this kind of training equipment, not hesitating to do a full bridge. But again, it's the butting the head. Remember, using the crown of your head. You don't see that in MMA. Piercing the elbow into the eye, into the face. Balancing myself. If I have to move off of position, controlling the arms becomes really important, because if I don't control these arms, he can deploy weapons off his waist or grab at my waist. But here it gives me, a good idea again of the opportunities to butt, to pierce with the elbows, but to gouge and thumb at the eyes, which is a good ender. Come across, see again, I can gouge. Instead of going for just a neck crank, I actually have an opportunity to gouge or scratch at the eyes, which is ideal. Switching into 2, piercing into the eyes. Always small, fast shots so that I can balance again and hold him down. Grabbing at the groin, smashing the groin, catching him off guard. Switching, and then again, once I get to base here, to base off his arms, shoulders, pits, and being able to drop knee bombs right to the head, and falling down, controlling him. He's trying to twist out, and me coming up to the head instead of like an MMA, where you can only go to the shoulders. Switching out here again, slapping at the groin, grabbing at the groin, coming in and controlling the arm, smashing, trying, fighting for that control. Again, I can scratch at the eyes and thumb at the eyes instead of just punching at someone covering up. And then again, that kind of satisfaction of breaking through the arm. His body's turned. Imagine hitting the back of the head, knee in the back of the head, or the spine. So these are things that you don't do in MMA. You could do this drill in MMA, but for street combat, getting the mind of hitting as lethally and as hard as possible and striking the throat, the back of the head, and the eyes, and the groin. We're at the cinema watching a movie. I'm just trying to mind my own business. I never want to fight if I don't have to fight. He's starting to erode my area. Big arms. So I'm ready. See, this is the reference. Excuse me, sir. Appreciate it if you stayed on your own armrest. Sir, I don't want any trouble. I just want my own armrest. You're taking up the whole space. Sir, I need you. Okay, that's an example of trapping. Right, so here he was, maybe he got aggressive, maybe he went to, as I said, excuse me, right? So you see, we're always hitting, it's not stand-up fighting. I hit him in the throat, I can hit him with the elbow, the palm. So I'm always trying to go eyes, the ear, the neck, back of the brain stem, trying to smash on the arms. But the reference, if you look at the angle, it's very similar to the drills that we do. You see? To the drills that we do. These are the drills. So now we're sitting on a bus, sitting at the train, sitting on the bench, anywhere sitting, I'm being evaded, or maybe he's just coming on to me. I have that reference where I don't have to look, I have to feel. We're in a lineup. Again, I don't want to start a fight, but if he was that aggressive to step in front of me when I'm at the line, excuse me, sir, that's where it's going to happen. I'm not going to have time to back up. All I know is that there's some sort of sensory where my hands are up. Sir, I don't want any trouble. He's attacking me. And you can see that's where the trapping comes in. Going back to, remember this drill that you saw? all those drills, maybe this little hand drill, right? I'm talking, it's coming onto me, and you'll see that all those drills that we do comes to that in mid-conversation. Don't think about when we think of ground fighting, and just lay down there for me. Ground fighting, jiu-jitsu, we get caught up in watching UFC, BJJ tournaments, jiu-jitsu tournaments in general, sport jiu-jitsu, and everything is very effective. All the joint locks are the same whether you do it in the street or on the mat, except, you know, someone taps and you have to stop. But one of the factors that we forget about in our little jiu-jitsu adventures is weaponry. Now, I'm not saying a guy's going to be walking around with a big blade, but this is to give you the mindset. So most people wear blades on the right side. So just want you to imagine that this is just sitting here, okay? I don't even know it's there. So I've locked up the guy, say, in the head and arm, which is fine. You know, it might be difficult for him to get to his weapon, but eventually, as I'm, you know, oh man, he just stabbed me in the back end with no control, you son of a gun. Right, so I just actually got hurt a little bit with that trainer. Did you draw blood? You did, didn't you? Okay, so that's how easy it is. So what I teach is called disengagement. So the blade is back inside. If I had done some sort of toss where I landed, I'm always making sure to control the arm. So there I did a Tan Sao from Wing Chun, okay? And then from here, we're fighting, and I let it go. I let that power go with a Hun Sao, a circling hand. So he's done the work for me. Now I've got a cross-arm trap that you normally see standing up, right? This is a pretty big lad, but it's leverage, you see? It's leverage in a heist. Now I threat scan. How does that feel, Peter?
Feels fantastic.
Yeah, I have lots of pressure on the arm, see? Belly can tap. I have pressure in the ribs. I threat scan. If I need to disengage, I can rotate my body and move away. Okay? Man, I think you did draw blood. You're supposed to make me look good. So we do a little drill. So we take our time, we go slow. This is how the drill would look. I'm in a normal head and arm position. I go 10. We call this washing the mat. Tan Sao, palm up deflection. Circling hand, let the arm go by. Trap, hip heist, threat scan. I can go on either side, but what I'm learning to do is disengage from my opponent. Because if I didn't, and this was a rock, a stick, anything that he could grab for, even if I had decided to switch and start just doing some grappling, you know, I'm in trouble. He has a weapon. So these are things that this is the art of disengaging. A lot of us grapple. We have lots of submissions. We have a lot of strategy. But at times we will need to disengage because there are multiple opponents or weapons. I've entered into the melee and you are unable to disengage because you're so busy tying yourself up with submission. Okay? So I give you a typical position here. I've done a modified head and arm. But he has been attacking me to the face. He can scrape and poke and rip at me. He might be able to get to his waist to deploy a weapon. So I catch him in what we call a standard God's notch or straight arm, right? But if I go to do like a normal submission, say with my leg over, we're going to get in a grappling match. I might still get the submission, but it's not necessarily going to end the fight. So you're probably familiar with this position. So I've just straightened out the arm here, okay? And what I want to do is I'm going to bring my arms up. And you see I put the pressure on the elbow and I lever, see? I lever. And you can see he's in lots of pain, a lot of pressure. He's not faking it. And I want to draw here. Now I can threat scan and I can disengage, or I tie him down with my knees, smash, and then disengage. So the art of disengaging is very, very important. How you doing? Hey. So, I always say so in my videos. Standard, modified, I sit back with a straight arm lock like a God's notch. I'm going to hip heist. You see I control the elbow so he doesn't reach in and deploy off of my belt or his belt for a weapon. I don't care about the submission. I notice some friends coming towards me. I need to control where I have his arms so I can pull away. If I need to run and get away, I could without him clinging to me. To go beyond a single opponent. So I'm dealing with the opponent, I've bladed my body, I try to either jam the right hand because 95% of the population will attack with the right hand. If I happen to have been on the other side in what we call a supportive stance, I would have already walked this way to see that turn so that I could have attacked. Now that I'm entangled, I didn't realize Kenny was with him, so I shouldn't be grappling and tying up. The idea is I should be striking, and right here I want to start to create what we call a column. I want to line up the opponents, and I don't want to keep hitting him because he's going to hit me. I want to hit this guy. This guy is my barrier here. Then I can start until I can disengage and escape. As we add more people, it gets more complicated if I have individual fights. So as soon as I felt like someone else was coming in and then there's more people, I need to really understand that this is not a fight with single people, right? So I keep traveling around. So I want you to look at a multiple opponent situation as an entire organism. I'm not fighting 3 or 4 individuals. I'm fighting an organism, and we'll talk more about that.
Peace and love, strength and honor. Samir Saif, Ontario Top Team. Pow!